You might expect America's cruelest criminals to ask for forgiveness or pray to their gods before they face the lethal injection or the electric chair. However, some have a more untoward approach regarding their last words, and there are a few truly bizarre phrases that have escaped the lips of prisoners from the past. One particularly odd case is that of Thomas J. Grasso's death in Oklahoma, 1995. Grasso received the death sentence for murder in the first degree after he strangled an elderly woman to death with Christmas lights. He murdered 87-year-old Hilda Johnson in her home in Florida and stole $8 from her purse, $4 in loose change, and her television set, which he sold for $125. Before this, he had racked up an extensive list of convictions, mostly for petty thefts from both random civilians and employers. Then, 6 months later, murdering an elderly man to steal his Social Security check. His famous last words were, "I did not get my spaghetti-os, I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." His last meal included 4 dozen steamed mussels and clams, a Burger King double cheeseburger, a half-dozen barbecued spare ribs, and 2 strawberry milkshakes. But crucially, he ordered spaghetti-os and was delivered spaghetti, to his dismay. Another curious case in last words is that of Jimmy Glass, who told his executioners, "I'd rather be fishing," in 1987 Louisiana. The 25-year-old was sentenced to death after escaping from jail during Christmas of 1982 and shooting an elderly couple to death whilst robbing their home. George Appel was sentenced to death for the murder of a police officer after being sent to the electric chair in 1928. And his last words have become infamous. Police Lieutenant Charles J. Kemmer walked into a Brooklyn restaurant just as Appel and his accomplice had finished robbing it. After a struggle between the assailants and the New York City police officer, prosecutors said Appel shot Kemmer 3 times. The only reason Appel, 41, and Brine were ever found is because as Kemmer lay shot in the restaurant, fatally wounded, he managed to jot down the plate number of Appel's getaway car despite his state. His last words as he was strapped into the electric chair were, "Well, gentlemen, you are about to see a baked Appel." Jeffrey David Matthews had his execution postponed 3 times before he could utter his final words in 2011. The Oklahoma prisoner was indicted for the 1994 murder of his great-uncle Otis Earl Short after he burgled his home with his partner in crime. Matthews slit Short's wife's wrists and shot his uncle in the back of the head. His last words were, "I think that governor's phone is broke. He hadn't called yet." This may have had something to do with the fact that 2 of the times his death had been postponed were thanks to the governor of Oklahoma, who wanted to further investigate his claims of innocence. The other time was because of a controversy surrounding the drugs they were going to administer to him.